Welcome in again to another edition of the Voice of Camp Nathanael. We've made it to August.
August?
Yeah.
How did we get here?
I don't know. We're recording this in June, but we've made it to August.
Maybe that's why I'm confused.
I'm very confused. Hey, Stephen Bell with you again here on the Voice of Camp Nathanael, coming at you with the ever mirthful and gregarious.
I'm going to need definitions for these. This is
word of the day.
This is Lee Sharp. and Steven's literally looking up adverbs on his phone right now.
They're adjectives, thank you very much.
Okay.
We've got to get our grammar right. Mirthful, joyful, and cheerful is what that means.
Okay, I'll take that.
All right. Gregarious, you look a little concerned with that one.
It's a pretty strong word.
It actually just means sociable.
Sociable.
That's all it means. Yeah, it means sociable.
There you go.
Hey, in the studio with us right now, we've got
we have a third voice.
We
here.
do have a third voice here, don't we? So it's not just myself and Lee on this edition of the Voice of Camp Nathanael, but again, like we said, yes, it is August 1st, but we are recording this in the middle of summer camp, and we have one of our camp speakers here with us. That oddly enough, Lee, you've got a little bit of you share some history.
We do.
We go way back.
Yeah. So everyone make welcome to the program, Mr. Devon Goings.
Hello.
everyone clap. Wait a minute. Sorry, man.
I forgot we have a panel of special buttons.
I mean, would you have rather had this one?
Maybe. That might be a little bit more accurate.
Hey, Devon, how you doing, man?
I'm well, man. Great day to be alive,
good.
so I can't really complain.
That's right. Well, Lee is going to guide us through some questions, and we're going to kind of revisit that statement of what I said, because you guys...
the connection there
is a connection.
Is that we both went to the University of the Cumberlands.
Go Pats. Pats by 98.
and Devon's still there.
Or some of our people who are from the past, it would be the Cumberland College. Sorry, we got to throw that out there too, because there's probably some Cumberland College.
When did that switch over happen?
Early 2000s, I think.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, it's pretty long.
Man.
Long ago. It's the early 2000s long ago?
Yeah.
Depends on who you're talking to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's fair too.
Relative there.
Wow. Okay.
Closer. Well, actually, never mind. Sorry.
Well,
so you're still at the Cumberlands.
I am.
And you're doing some ministry things there. So I'll go on and ask you what...
let the interview begin.
What's the story? So what do you do at Cumberlands?
What do I do? Yeah, that's a really good question.
You said that as if, let me think. What
it
do
really is.
Well, what is my job?
So part of it is, so I guess I'll give some context too. So I came to Cumberlands in 2013. I came there as a student to Russell, and I did political science, criminal justice, and for a long time I thought I was going to do military or federal law enforcement. So I thought I was going to, leave. But here we are. So ended up getting plugged into Res Life. I was a residence hall director for a little bit, and then after that, I worked for Campus Ministries, and I did sports ministry there. But as of January, I actually moved positions, and I'm currently the director of diversity and inclusion at UC.
So what is that?
Yeah.
Very
so,
cool.
and that's been some of the question, because it's like, how do we do this from a distinctively Christian perspective, right? Distinctively Christian position. And I mean, a lot of it is going to start with, the fact that all people are made in the image of God, that that diversity is something that God has made, and that it is to be seen like from the lens as God is the creator, right?
Absolutely.
Another thing, and I mean, y'all are I guess I'll just kind of take y'all into some of my processing.
Go for it. Come on, man. We're on for the journey.
No, I mean, it's been good, because I mean, there's obviously a lot of baggage, I guess, that comes with that term, and there was some that I was kind of like, oh man, I mean, I don't even like having that title, because a lot of the assumptions that kind of come with it. But then I started thinking through, I'm like, okay, well, Christ redeems, and he even redeems terms to some degree. So how is it that we can utilize this position for the advancement of the kingdom through the proclamation of the gospel, and being able to apply what the Bible has to say about diversity and inclusion? So yeah, how do we use that as a means to share the gospel with people that are going to take different assumptions than we are? So
and that is really unique, because I don't know, because I know you've got these positions that are on campuses all over America, but I don't know how many of those positions where you have someone in that position that's coming at it with a gospel-centered mindset for a kingdom purpose.
Right.
And that's and that is coming into it being unwavering in regards to the Word of God.
Right. No, I mean, it's been, so I'm a student at Reformed Theological Seminary, and probably about 2 years ago, I think, I can't even remember, time has been flying by. I took an apologetics class, and one of my professors gave a really helpful analogy that I've been thinking about a lot as I've been in this position. And he was basically saying, he's like, sometimes whenever we have conversations with people, we can be talking about a certain topic. So let's talk about, let's say, diversity right now. Mm-hmm. And basically, whenever we do that, it's like we're talking about the floor. And I promise this will make sense here in a little bit.
Got it.
So whenever we're having a conversation about something, we have these, so diversity is the topic, we're looking at the floor. Well, if you know anything about carpentry, you realize that under the floor, there's trusses that are actually holding up what the floor is, right? Mm-hmm. So in the same way, he was saying, if we want to have productive conversations about something, and even persuasive arguments, apologetics, we want to get down to the trust level of the arguments. So now the question is, okay, well, what do we mean when we're talking about diversity? What do we mean when we're talking about, I'm trying to think of another topic. I don't know why, but abortion is coming to my mind, right? Mm-hmm. Like what are some of the underlying assumptions that people take in with that conversation? And then whenever we get down to those trusses, that's when we can have productive conversation. I'll give kind of an example that might hammer this in, but a few years ago, I was actually downtown Williamsburg, was holding a Juneteenth event. So I was like, all right, cool, like, let me slide through. So I went down there, and I ended up having a conversation with this one guy, and I don't know how we got on this, but I was like, hey, man, like, I'm a Christian. He was like, all right, yeah, that's cool. I used to be a Christian. I was like, what does that mean? Anyway, and then he kind of goes on to tell me, he's like, I've recently started coming to the conclusion that evolution is the right way to go. And I was like, all right, cool. If evolution, like if you believe in evolution, then why are you here?
Yeah.
Why does human rights matter if people came from, random evolutionary processes? Where does human dignity, where does human value come from? And I'm convinced that you can't defend any kind of human rights from an evolutionary position, because
it's illogical at that point,
right? Because at the end of the day, it's survival of the fittest. And we were talking at a Juneteenth thing, and I was like, man, if you're going to take that assumption, slavery was a good thing, and those black people should have just been stronger, right?
Wow.
Which, as Christians, we're going to be like, no, slavery's awful.
That's right.
But we're going to root that back in the sense that people are made in the image of God, and that they have dignity and value that God has given. Anyway, so I know that was kind of a deviation, but like this has been some of what I've been thinking through is like, okay, how do we take topics? Also forgot to mention, but I also teach in the department. So some of this has been like the missions and ministry department. So some of this has been kind of incorporated in the classroom setting too. I'm trying to think through how do Christians constructively, critically, biblically engage our world, and do so in a way that is thoughtful, but that is also not just kind of like on the surface. Let's get down to the trust arguments for whatever we're talking through. Anyway, so yeah, like that's been kind of a big part of what I've been thinking through, and just really challenging some of those underlying assumptions, because again, it's a very loaded.
And how long have you been in that position with Cumberlands?
January.
I started to say, man, because I don't think you were here last year, and I was like, I don't remember that.
No, man. No, this like just started. So
wow, all right, good deal, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, hey, if everybody listening to the Voice of Camp Nathanael, if you want something to pray about, man, add Devon to your prayer list, man, because that's a huge opportunity to carry the message of Jesus. And that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, man.
So Stephen, you mentioned that he was here this past year.
Last summer.
Year, you did some speaking here as well. Mm-hmm. So I'll go on and ask this question here. How did you get connected to camp? Because that's nobody comes to camp by accident.
Yeah, man.
It's always through somebody's connected to somebody connected to somebody.
Right.
God's got ways of working through all the people that way. So.
Yeah. It's been funny because I've been asked that like earlier today or like yesterday, and I'm like, honestly, I can't really remember. But I think it was because Matt Fannin worked at Camp Nathanael. We were kind of talking about that, or it might have been the Feltners. Anyway, I had heard of some people talk about Camp Nathanael, so I had heard about it. And then one day, because I was working with Campus Ministries, Matt Schwanke came on campus and was just kind of telling us about Camp Nathanael. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, that'd be a kind of a cool thing. And then I was invited to come talk to the orientation leaders. And what was that, 2 years ago at this point? Okay. Yeah, 2 years ago. And then last year came and did high school week. So then this year here.
Nice.
I think it was Matt. It might have been somebody else. Anyway, I can't.
It's all right, man. Everybody kind of blends together after a while. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, man. So and Devon is back for our high school week this year. Mm-hmm. So you did something right. I mean,
hey, I'm just chilling.
Got invited back.
I know,
got invited back, man. There have been people who have not been invited back.
Fair.
So
preach the word, right?
That's right, man. That's right. Awesome. What else we got, Lee?
So as you've been invited back here, you've been speaking in our evening sessions or chapel sessions. So I'll go on and ask, and feel free to go into the days or however you want to take it. What have you been talking about this week?
Yeah, so kind of the theme for this week is challenge accepted, or I guess the summer. Yep. It's challenge accepted, summer. And we're looking at 1 Peter 3:15, which is talking about honoring Christ as holy in our hearts, being ready to give a defense anytime that anyone asks us for the hope that we have in us, but to do it with meekness and fear. So the first night I was really asking the question, or I guess it's not a question. I was really just saying that context is key, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's important for, as we get into the text, as we get into even thinking about life, like how we respond to situation, context is going to be key, because if you don't have the full picture of something, then it's going to impact the way that you respond. It's going to impact the way that you live and all these different things. So primarily setting up the context for 1 Peter, who Peter was, the time period that Peter was writing, and just really challenging people to take a step back and to look at the bigger picture, right? Because that's ultimately what context does. It helps us to get the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, we were talking about honoring Christ as holy in our hearts. We were talking about the fact that that God created people to worship and honor and glorify him. And then we realized that there was a fall, and that as a result of the fall that all people are, in the inclusive sense, born dead in sin.
I like that.
Yeah, but
well, I mean, I don't like that.
Right. So, I was like, wait a minute.
You like sin?
No. We got that loud and clear, right?
Yeah. Cameron's leaving that in.
That's right. So. But no, on a serious note, like because of Adam and Eve's rebellion, and Adam all died, and there's a sense where all people have this disposition to sin against the one true God, and that's often manifested in idolatry. So, we were looking at the challenge of honoring Christ, the Lord, is holy in our hearts, but really just emphasizing the fact that apart from Christ, we can't do that, because our natural disposition is going to be hostility towards the Lord, and we're going to look to some kind of idol, which is basically looking at anything that is created rather than the Creator for our hope, our happiness, our security, or our significance. So we're just kind of talking through that. Today, we'll be looking more at the latter half of the verse, which is talking about giving the defense in a meek and in a fearful way. So just more so looking at our heart posture before we get into, these are going to be the next 2 days, getting into some of the defenses of the faith. So some of that's still kind of open as I'm having conversations with some of the campers, but one of the emphases that I want to make is just talking about the reliability of the word, that God has revealed himself to us, that we don't have to guess what God says, that it's been given to us, that by God's grace, he didn't leave us without any kind of knowledge, but he's worked through the apostles and the prophets to give us the written word. So
good, man. That's awesome.
Things there.
So solid stuff.
Where are we?
I just said that's solid stuff.
Solid stuff. All the good things. Okay, there we go. I'm confused. I was like, wait, where are we going with the conversation?
That's good.
Gregarious.
That's
Gregarious.
Right. I'm going to say it with a British accent.
And mirthful.
Gregarious. Mirthful. I should have started with a British accent.
Devon knows German, too.
I do.
He does?
What's the German word for mirthful?
Oh, I don't even know, man.
Where'd the German come from now?
Yeah, so I was born in
ask
Germany.
the question.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Just go for it, man.
Just go for it.
So I was born in Germany.
Born in Germany.
Yeah, man. Lived there till I was 6. My mom's German. My dad was in the military. And lived there till I was 6. German was actually my first language. So I don't know if you can tell my thick German accent.
I think you might have lost a little bit.
Yeah, no, I definitely
the American accent has crept in.
American, man.
Not the English accent that we were doing.
That's right.
Apologies to any of our British listeners. We love you guys. You should write to us and tell us that you're listening.
My sister-in-law's in England right now, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. So Germany's a pretty cool place. We went back this past winter to go see my grandma for Christmas.
Sweet.
It was great.
Nice. Oh. So did you have to go? Did you have to start speaking German again?
I did.
Okay.
So actually, the first time that we had went back since I'd left was in 2018. And that was even kind of a pivotal year because I thought I was either going to join the military, do federal law enforcement at that point. But speaking of idols, the Lord had really convicted me of the fact that I'd made both of those things an idol in my heart. So anyway, I had anticipated that more people would speak English than they did. But my grandma lives kind of in the country, and they don't speak English. So
they feel no need to learn.
Right. They're like, I don't have to. So yeah, I was just like, wow, this is Okay, I have no clue what's going on right now, so learned a lot there.
Well, good deal. So we've talked about your ties, how you've gotten into Camp Nathanael.
Yeah.
We've talked about what it is that you're discussing this week. Do we have anything else on the list at the moment?
I've just got I've got a fun question.
You got a fun question?
Okay, I know
we've got time for some fun questions.
All right, I know that you haven't just been speaking in the evenings. You've been getting involved in a lot of the games and activities, and
he was in even in a skit today.
He was in
the breakfast or at lunch. Yeah.
So I got to ask, what's your favorite activity here at camp that you got to jump into?
Let's go one.
If you got to pick the absolute best one, I've put him on the spot now.
You have. Now there's going to be this awkward silence where we just wait. Let's see what happens.
Do you have a sound thing for that?
Push some fun buttons here.
Oh,
there we go.
I would say the noodle game, like the one where you have to. What's it called?
Tag-a-lot.
Tag-a-lot. That's what it is.
Sit on the buckets and you run around and try to hit.
That was so fun. I don't know what it is, but it's
he hasn't played Tube Mania yet.
I forgot about that.
Tube Mania.
We haven't played that this year. I love that game. So I'm really competitive.
Yeah.
And last year I prided myself because I was dragging some kids and with the tube. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Or whenever they were rolling actually I probably shouldn't say that. I'm gonna incriminate myself. Whenever they were rolling the ball, I would hit it out of the way, and if they were in the way. Anyway,
keep going.
I promise your kids are safe if you're listening.
Yeah, they're fine. They're fine.
They're safe. We also have a nurse on staff, so there's
there's
always somebody here to help.
If that
comes into it.
If anything, I'm old at this point, so I'm probably the one who needs to.
Well, man, you're gonna hang out. You're gonna join us with some. The highlight of high school week a lot of times is our staff versus camper games.
Oh yeah.
So we like to get Devon in on that with us as well. So,
that's been fun. Yeah, the kids are really competitive. It's been.
Oh yeah, they are. They're very competitive. Yeah. So man, hey, we got a few minutes here, and in regards to, we've almost made it. We've almost made it, man. And I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second.
Let's do it.
There's something we did not discuss because, I'm
with it.
Devon and I. I've learned over the past couple of days, and really after last year, we have a lot of the same interest in regards to what we use as far as methods of teaching and stuff along these lines. We've talked a lot about catechism. We've talked a lot about guys like Shylin and stuff that we really respect and are really appreciative of. Putting you on the spot for a second, what would you? Anything that you would recommend? I fear asking you this question because I want to ask you, man, what are some of your favorite books? First of all, I want to ask you that because I've asked that to people before, and they're like, "I love you and hate you for asking me that question," because they just don't know what to say. But any kind of for people listening, any kind of resources that you would give them for their own spiritual walk. For them to grow closer to Christ, and we obviously know that the Word surpasses everything. But the good thing is they're very credible servants of the Lord that have written legit stuff that we can benefit from.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, man, that's a tough question. Some of that.
You're welcome.
I know. Thank you.
There's you've already said the Sunday school, the Bible.
Of course.
But obviously, there you go. Aside from just the Bible, not aside from, alongside the Bible.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, that's a really it depends answer because it depends. Is somebody looking to do apologetics? Somebody looking for theological enrichment? Is just kind of general stuff. All right, I'll just start shooting out some stuff that's kind of
because in all fairness, that's a very broad question that I could give you there without giving you some categories to hit on.
Yeah, no, that's good. Let's just say general engagement, or I guess just general growth. One of the things that I am a really big advocate of, so obviously I'm gonna, charge the necessity to study doctrine very heavily. But I've been really benefited just by kind of having the mindset that our understanding of truth, our understanding of doctrine, it affects and shapes our worship. It affects the way that we live. Theology is not this abstract thing that we kind of keep in the silo over here, but it actually informs our worldview. I recently read this comment that said, I think it was from Calvin, where he said the Bible is not only what we read, but what we read with. Right. So it's again, kind of going back to the floor analogy, the very assumptions that Christians have. can be fundamentally different, right? Because we're starting with God.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, I'm probably going to advocate a lot of theological works. Yeah, I mean, the little book on the Christian life written by John Calvin has been really helpful, really profitable for me. And I mean, one of the things that I appreciate about it is that it's super underwhelming. Like you read it and you're like, duh. But it's like, man, but this is so good. And it's just a call for consistent, faithful living in the midst of this world, and not to get tied to this world. And one of the reasons why, or one of the things that he said, he's like, one of the reasons why our hearts are not satisfied in this world is because there's something better, right? Like if we were content with this world, then, like what would we have to look forward to? But the reality is that the supremacy of Christ, the fact that Christ will return and make all things new, that is worth more than anything that we could ever imagine. That's kind of go to the parable of, where Jesus is saying the dude sold his whole property, or like sold everything that he had just to buy this field so he can find this treasure, right? Everything that he has so he can buy this field. So little book on the Christian life would be one. I just recently read a book called Reset by a guy named David Murray. Fantastic book. The subtitle is How to Live a Grace-Paced Life in a Burnout Culture. Primarily, it's looking to kind of talk to people who are in ministry. Again, I'm going to be cut from the cloth where I would say all Christians are to be ministers of the new covenant, ministers of reconciliation. All Christians are ambassadors, but this is more so kind of vocational. And one of the things that he's really saying, he's like, for the sake of ministry, I'm kind of doing air quotes since you can't see, for the sake of ministry, we often neglect really crucial means of grace that God has given us: sleep, our health, spending time in the Word, just kind of generally spending time with our family, just different things like that. And it was a really challenging, but really encouraging book too, because for the sake of, again, ministry, we can add on all these good things that can be glorifying to the Lord, but we don't do them super well because we're burnt out. So it's just more of like an evaluation, and then just like a good theology of how we move forward with that.
That's good.
Yeah, I found that to be really, really profitable. I'm reading a book called Christian Worldview by Herman Bavinck right now. Herman Bavinck's an early Dutch Reformed theologian, really great. It's kind of cool thinking about like who he was talking to, because he was at this time, evolution was on the rise. The sciences, that was kind of on a big rise, and that's where you kind of got some of the religion science dichotomy, which isn't actually true. But he was kind of speaking into that and thinking, how can we think distinctively Christian with that? All right, I'm actually just about to fire off some books that I would just highly recommend.
All right, go for it, man. Go for it.
Feel free to like pause your podcast or whatever, or like
write these down.
Write them down, or like
we don't have show notes.
Reverse
write
back.
them down.
That's fair. There's just too many good books, y'all.
Yeah. Again, I apologize,
No,
but
you're good,
it's
you're
a
good.
question I love asking.
Yeah. No, I recently read a book called Strange New World by a guy named Carl Trueman, and he kind of looks at how it's like a historical and philosophical analysis about how we've come to redefine identity. So you kind of get like the transgender movement coming from some of this, and he gives a helpful Christian critique about that. And again, what I appreciate is like he's looking at like historically, here's how we got to where we're at. And it's crazy, right? People have the idea that they can autonomously define who they are, right? Like the autonomy is like the big thing. And it's like, no, man, I mean, we start with God. Again, God is the creator, sustainer. He gives meaning and value to his creation. So Strange New World by Carl Trueman. The New Reformation by Shai Linne, really profited from that book. Subtitle for that is Finding Hope in the Fight for Ethnic Unity. Man, oh man. I mean, I'm a really big Herman Bavinck fan, but I feel like that's kind of he's a theologian from the early 1900s. I've not read a lot of Calvin, but what I have read from him is really good. Grudem's pretty good in terms of theology. One of the things I will say, and this is just kind of thinking about books, is read people that you disagree with and read broadly, just to be able to refine your arguments and kind of see what they're saying. So, I don't know. I kind of think through their outside of reading the Word of God. I would say that two of the biggest influences that have kind of helped my theological maturity has been people that like engaging people that I disagree with, and also engaging non-believers in their questions, because that forces me to get into the Word and see, okay, what is the Word of God saying about these things? So that's kind of my little plug of like read people that you disagree with too. Let me see. Yo, there's so many books. I'm literally
See what I've done?
So many.
I'm literally looking at like trying to think through my bookshelf. Oh
And
my gosh.
he has no prep for this at all. This
No,
is
he's just going off his memory right now.
Yep. I think I broke Devon.
Ooh, the reason for God by
Reason
Tim
for
Keller is
God.
really
Nice.
good.
Yep.
Loving the City by Tim Keller is really good too. He gives a few different ways of, I guess, methods of like cultural engagement. And again, I'm going to be coming from, I think Christians should engage in culture, and I think it's really good for us to be able to answer the questions because we are we have truth, right?
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be scared of any kind of objection or whatever that might be. We can engage those things with truth, which is just kind of cool. So, I almost missed this. Anything by John Frame. I'll just say it like that. The book that I've most profited from in seminary so far has been The Doctrine of the Christian Life by John Frame. Fantastic book. I had to read it for my ethics class, but I'll just kind of give like a little breakdown, and if you feel the need to read it, then please do. He basically gives like an articulation of, okay, how do we think about ethics? And he does it with kind of these 3 points, I guess, that he articulates. One, he's saying that we want to, oh my goodness, my brain's blanking right now. Basically, there's the normative element. So like, what is the norm or like the standard by which we should submit ourselves, which is the Word of God. Okay, so we trust that. There's a situational component because we realize, again, that God has placed us in a particular point in history and time right now. So we want to take that into consideration. So again, we're looking at what is the truth of God's Word, the objective truth of God's Word. How does that impact with the situations that we find ourselves in? And then he has the last part. It's kind of a big fancy word, but it's called the existential position too. So it's like, okay, there are elements where like our intuition or our feelings also kind of come into that because those are being sanctified too. So it's like, as we look at any kind of ethical approach or any kind of situation, we want to take those things into consideration, right? This is kind of what I'm going to be talking about today as we look at heart posture, because one of the things that Peter challenges us with is meekness. And meekness is kind of like strength under control, right? And depending on who we're having a conversation with, we can be like, all right, I'm going to cut you down and just absolutely destroy your whole argument. It doesn't make any sense or whatever. But it's like, okay, what does this person need to hear right now? And then it's like, all right, as we're led by the Spirit of God to be able to engage those things, okay, cool, let's engage that right there. We don't necessarily have to cut them down right now, or even ever if the Lord might have that. So anyway, he has that, and then he gives this exposition of the 10 Commandments. And one of the things that I appreciate, he gives like a narrow view and a broad view is how he gives it out. So the narrow view is going to be, you shall not murder. So, don't shoot people in the head and kill them type thing. But then he also even goes out to say, okay, well, what about malice or hatred in our heart? Like that's going to be the broader view. And even as you look at what Jesus was doing on the Sermon on the Mount, he's getting at the heart of the issue. So oftentimes we can just get fixated on like the narrow view, but it's like, hold up, like there are other elements too that can constitute hatred towards our brothers and sisters. Like that can constitute that as well, or one of the things, and then I'll be done. Sorry.
Oh man, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then like another one of the things, and I think I was just super challenged with this, but he was looking at the 9th commandment, which is talking about like, don't bear false witness against your brother. And one of the things he was saying, he's like, are we seeking to protect, not the integrity, but basically, like, are we slandering brothers and sisters, right? As we have conversations, or like even in the midst of disagreement, are we bearing false witness in the way that we're talking about other people, right? Like there's a sense in which we are still supposed to be principled in the way that we disagree with people. We're not supposed to destroy the reputation type thing. So anyway, and then at the end he gives a cool little conversation about engagement with culture and how to apply all those things. So it's a really holistic, challenging, long read. Sorry, I went way too long.
No, you didn't. Actually,
so good.
Actually, the entirety of the program, we usually try to hit around the 30-minute mark. We've got 1 minute left.
Let's go.
There we go.
Look at that.
I'm doing great, yo.
So
No, man, it's great, dude.
I talk a lot.
Hey, seriously, man, we really appreciate you sitting in with us and getting to share your heart just a little bit and what God's been doing in your life and where he's brought you, and now bringing you here to camp to minister to these students this week, man. It's been fantastic.
The Lord's been really faithful.
I know that we've got a few
23
people
seconds.
who also who work here. No. Different direction. We've got some staff here I know that are going to Cumberlands. We have some students that may be listening to this that are considering different colleges and different things like that, and some of you all might be looking at Cumberlands. I'm going to suggest that when you get there, go and chat with Devon.
Yeah.
Come and say hi. I'm putting him on the spot there again, saying that, yeah, just go say hi to him. Break into whatever office he's got over there and go say hey.
That's why I do what I do. I love talking to students.
So get connected, get plugged in, especially when you're in college, especially for all of our students that are in college, because college is a very formative time for a lot of people, and to be formed in the image of Christ would be what we hope and pray for everyone who is going to any college, but especially if you're going to Cumberlands and you're wanting to connect with somebody there and you're like, oh, I don't know a whole lot of people, or how do I get connected into ministries there? Devon is obviously connected with all of those, and he can help get you plugged into all of the different ministries that are happening around campus.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Can I play or just say something really quickly?
Sure.
Just on that note. Yeah, another thing I would say, like if you are looking at Cumberlands or really any other college, make sure to look at some of the local churches around. Because even thinking about college ministry, there's only so much that they can offer, but there's something special about just meeting with the saints and being edified weekly in that way. So
most definitely.
Good deal. Well, man, thanks again for sitting in with us. We greatly appreciate it. And, man, thankful for what God's doing in your ministry, both here at camp and at Cumberlands.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. Guys, that does it for us for another edition of The Voice of Camp Nathanael. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to go back and check out all of our previous episodes. And if you got any questions, you can... I don't know if you can send us questions or not, but hey, you can.
Don't we have the email?
I think we have an email. I can't remember it right now. I have nothing written down. Thanks for putting me on the spot.
It's something like podcast@campnathanael.org.
It might be.
I want to say.
You know what? We should clarify that.
We're going to put it in the show notes.
You know what? I'm 100% confident that if you email podcast@campnathanael.org, that it will either come to us or it'll kick it back as undeliverable. So go ahead.
Go for it.
Go ahead. I think we're safe there. You can also find out more information on the camp at campnathanael.org. With that, we're out of here. Lee, it's been good. It's been fun.
We'll see y'all in a couple weeks.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
See you.